Good morning, everybody. As I start off this blog post this week, I wanted to discuss the outcomes of the leadership questionnaire that we had to take. I determined that administratively my skills were moderate, interpersonal high, and conceptual skills high. I feel like this really relates to the experiences that I've had previously. I've been an RN for about 8 years, and in that time, I've acted as charge nurse, and I was not always very happy with my role as a charge nurse because I found that it was very hard to delegate and really to delineate my role as a clinician versus an administrative figure. In my role, I felt like I was better able to serve clinically than I was necessarily the background, behind the scenes kind of skill set. As far as having to do like the paperwork and the staffing and that sort of thing, really wasn't my tea. In the position that I'm in now, I just started in a new unit in a new hospital, and they actually have two different charge nurses for each shift. One that's called the clinical charge nurse, and that is the person that helps out at the bedside with the patients, helps you with procedures, acts as a resource. And there's also an operational charge nurse. That's the person that helps with figuring out staffing, figuring out patient assignments, makes the assignments for the next shift. And I really feel like that separation of roles helps out as far as being able to really act as the best kind of resource that is needed for a busy intensive care unit. As far as the different models of care, or the organizational structures within a hospital, I've worked in a hospital that has really employed both of those different models as far as the tall and the horizontal. So as far as the tall organizational structure, I've faced challenges with that in the past, where you've had your president of the hospital. So we had a president of Children's Hospital, who then reported down to the VP of Children's, who then went to the assistant VP, and then went to the nurse manager, who then sent the message on to the staff. When you have such a broad and tiered system, there tends to be a lot of miscommunication, and it's difficult when it almost seems like a top-heavy kind of system, and it really seems ineffective when you're trying to communicate general messages. However, when it comes to having resources as far as the operational stuff goes, it can be helpful to have many resources to relate back to. I've also worked within the same hospital and within the same structure, a horizontal kind of structure, and that was within the unit itself. So the nurse manager would relay messages directly to the staff. That was very helpful because it was like hearing it from the horse's mouth, and we could relay our concerns very quickly from the source. However, what I learned historically was that when that happened, there was a lot of responsibility on the nurse manager, and she ended up very overwhelmed and had to take steps backwards in her position, because it was having so much thrown on her that she couldn't maintain her own kind of duties without just getting overwhelmed. So really having a mixture of both kind of systems, I feel, is very helpful to be able to really relay messages efficiently and quickly, and having a supportive model and having a supportive structure. So as far as the skills that would be needed to secure resources such as staffing, our text, Grohar, Murray, and Langen suggested planning, which I feel like is really helpful, really important for a nurse leader, or say the charge nurse, the manager, to understand, really to plan out, if you know that you're going to have certain high acuity patients, to plan ahead for those, to be able to staff those patients. For example, if we know that we're going to have a post-op cardiac patient, we make sure that we have the unit staff to be able to have a nurse that's trained to be able to take post-op cardiac patients. As far as using the nursing leadership, the leadership skills questionnaire, I think that having good interpersonal skills is really helpful when it comes to securing extra staff. I know there's many a times when I've had to make phone calls and say, hey, any chance you can come in tomorrow? We're short-staffed. And if you can address that in a friendly, kind of professional way, you're more likely to get a positive response from people versus if you are mean or if you're autocratic or anything like that. They say you catch more flies with honey, so sometimes if you can offer, a friendly bargain, say, I will work this shift for you if you come in on this day, or I can offer you a Starbucks gift card, and that has worked in the past when we've been really short-staffed. I found this article by Burke and O'Grady that refers to using the interdisciplinary team, and this was actually a really cool idea, having a group education interdisciplinary visit for patients with diabetes. And this basically was a group of anywhere from 3 to 30 patients that would meet at any designated time, monthly, quarterly, and instead of having individual appointments where they would discuss, all the education stuff, over and over and over again with individual patients, they had group appointments where they had a mix of like a nurse practitioner, pharmacy, nutrition, physicians, psych, social work, health educators that could come in and have like a group update and a group therapy almost kind of session with these patients. What they found was that it increased staff efficacy because they didn't have to repeat this message 30 times to 30 different patients. They were able to effectively manage their time, which then, of course, decreased cost for the organization. They increased patient satisfaction because they eliminated waits for the patients. So, if you had to relay this message 30 times to 30 different patients, of course, that's going to make for a long visit. And, of course, we know that in the society that we're in and in the healthcare industry that we're in, a lot of our reimbursement and just models are based on patient satisfaction scores, and they found that this was a big patient satisfier. And it also shifted the responsibility for wellness and education onto the patient instead of putting it on the provider. And as we know, when we get, as we put more emphasis on the patients versus on the staff, then we know that we have greater outcomes for longevity and less recidivism for our patient care. So really, it was really cool to read the study and see what the outcomes were when they really integrated the interdisciplinary team and really kind of had to focus care on so many different aspects and so many facets of achieving the same goal. And so as a nurse leader, it's very necessary that we utilize different organizations and different sectors within our organization to achieve our goal. So historically, I would say, I've used many different departments in my previous role as a charge nurse. I'm not a charge nurse anymore. I've had to work with, the sister units. So in my old hospital, in the children's hospital, we have the NICU, PICU, and PEDS floor. And all three of us work together to staff appropriately and staff safely. So we had to really work within each other because we didn't have much support from the main hospital because it was mostly adult driven. So we had to work independently to make sure that we were each staffed and appropriate. I've worked very closely with pastoral care. Pastoral care was responsible for helping us with death certificates, for example. So as a charge nurse, I had to work very closely with them if we did have a death or an expected death. As far as other departments, oh gosh, all the time. Work very closely with, of course, our tertiary care as far as respiratory therapy. If I see a patient that is not doing so fantastically and they are, intubated, or they might need to be intubated, or maybe they just need to be closely monitored to prevent deterioration of care. As a leader, as a nurse leader, I have been able to presumptively present those needs to other departments and basically resolve issues to increase patient outcomes. So I think that I have covered all of the topics for this week. Thank you guys for watching, and I would love to see your comments. Thank you.